while we were both still working, Harold and I, uh, we could get the winter break. Now they have President's Week, but they just called it a winter break back then. And we had a week off from school. So when we had that week off from school, Harold and I made reservations, and we'd go down to one of the Caribbean islands. And we did that for at least 4 years because we had the week off and no children around. Antigua, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada. It was great. Oh, the very first time we went down, the very first time, uh, we decided, do you know Violet and Jim? They lived down near the airport for us to fly from. So they said, well, come down here and leave your car here. So we drove to them. This was around Mineola or East Williston Park, they lived. We went, took our car down there, and we left the car there, and then they drove us to the airport, which was not far. And at that point, Ginny worked for an airline. So she got us our tickets. We got the tickets through her. She worked for the airline. So anyway, we get down there, and we were just going tourist, of course. Well, Ginny had arranged for us to go into the first class lounge before. Well, we got that in the first class lounge, and well, we could have anything we wanted to drink, and all the hors d'oeuvres and all. See, we weren't flying first class, but Ginny pulled strings for us. Anyway, before we got into the first class lounge, uh, I must say Harold always loved his cameras. I mean, he always took a lot of pictures. He was quite a photographer. Well, we get down there and we're waiting to be called, and all of a sudden his name gets called over the loudspeaker. Here we are in this big uh, airport, and so this gal comes to him and said, "Will you? We want to take you down to the first class lounge." Well, he had to go down and do something. Well, we laughed so because he was always so with his camera, didn't get lost and so forth. Well, this girl came down in a mini skirt, and the way I remember it, it was the first. I don't know why I got this in my mind. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't a mini first skirt. He gets up and he follows her. Jim and and here we're sitting laughing. He even left his camera. Not only did he leave his wife, he left his camera. Found out we could go to the first class lounge. That was the three of us, Ginny and Pete and Harold and me. It was four of us. Went down. Ginny pulled through. Oh, and then we get on the plane, and we're having our dinner. And it was the first time we had ever done anything like this. So we're thinking, oh dear, So all of a sudden, the hostess comes to us and brings a bottle of champagne. She said, "This is from Ginny." Ginny arranged for us to get a bottle of champagne on. So here, after drinking all this, then with our dinner, we get a bottle of champagne. It's good we had a number of hours to fly. That was the first time we ever had done anything like that, and it was just so special. And then with Jim doing all this stuff for us, this one time we were going down, and I guess it must have been the first time, and we couldn't get over this. It was like we hadn't traveled by planes before this at all. So anyway, we get down, and I can remember saying the sun was going down on one side of the plane, the moon was coming up on the other. We were going down, and we got down, and it was so nice and warm. Oh, and as a matter of fact, the hotel that we stayed in, the dining room, they had outdoors, and the steel band after, and we were dancing after it, and all. Oh, it was just, we felt we were in heaven. We had never done anything like this. So we had this, and it was such fun. And we looked at each other. We were out there dancing there in summer clothes, and it was February. And we said, we looked at each other. Can you imagine it's February, and here we are outside dancing in summer clothes. We just couldn't get over it. We did that for, I think, 4 years. We did that during our winter break. Well, we had some friends who had gone down there previously, and from Sayville, good friends of ours, and they said, "Why don't you do that?" We went once and we got hooked on it. was it was so wonderful to go down there that week because we'd be leaving here in snow and get down there and be summer, and then come back to snow again. Of course, we had that week down there. That's what it is. It's that kind of a hotel. You stay for the week or 2 weeks or whatever it is you're staying for. But that's how you made your reservations. That was the kind of hotel it was. It was a lovely, lovely place, and we never just stayed at the beach like some people. They go to a resort and they just stay at the resort. Not us. We want to see everything you can see. We've always been like that. This was Antigua. That was the first island we had ever gone to. That was Antigua, and it just didn't seem real to us. We decided. Well, we went to bed that night. We had a beautiful room with a balcony, and there were table and chairs on our balcony where we could eat out there, which we did the next morning for breakfast. We didn't go any place to go eat. We had our meal delivered to us, and it was all open, of course. And the little birds would come and sit on our table. It was really fantastic. So anyway, we go to bed that night, and the next morning we got up, and I think no, we ordered breakfast up at our balcony. That's what we did. We ordered breakfast up there. Well, after breakfast, we got dressed. We didn't get dressed before we were in our robes and whatnot. I can remember Wendy had given me a new shorty nightgown and robe for my trip. Really very elegant. So anyway, we decided, well, we're through. Got dressed then, and we decided we'll go on to the beach. So we take towels and we go down to the beach. And we're sitting there at the beach enjoying looking out at the sea, because we're right at the water there. We're right at the Caribbean Sea. So we're sitting there and thinking, we're saying to each other, "This doesn't seem real, does it? It doesn't seem real." And we all of a sudden we hear or we see a couple walking down the beach towards us, sort of, and we hear somebody say, "Hello, Lamooses." It was a couple who lived the next street to us in Sayville. Yeah, nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed real to us anymore. Have somebody come. I really didn't know them. I know who they were. I guess Harold knew them through school. Uh, he must have known them. But anyway, this was. Can you imagine? Here we thought we're all by ourselves out here, and all of a sudden somebody say, "Hello, Moses." So I thought that was an interesting story. We didn't always just stay at the beach. We decided we like to see some more. Now you could take, of course, we didn't have a car there. We were on on an island, so we said, well, sometimes we should maybe go into town and see what the town is like that this is in. So we did go into town. I think we called a taxi that time because we did this 4 times. We went to 4 different islands on different vacations. So that year we went to Antigua. Another year we went to Grenada, which is another one of the islands down there. And we went to, I wrote these down so I'd remember. We went to St. Lucia, and the fourth island we went to was St. Vincent. So we did go 4 different years. That week, we flew down always for that week, and we spent a week down there at those each a different island each time. But it was very interesting some of the things that down there. Now, these islands depend upon these big hotels. They're hotels that you go for a week or 2 weeks or whatever you have, and y- that you had all your meals there, unless you wanted to go someplace different, for a meal. You'd tell them, well, I won't be here tonight. We're going to. One night we did because we knew some of our friends who were staying in another island, and we went to there. We went and had dinner with them that night. That wasn't this first time, but anyway, this first time in Antigua, there were certain things that they told us about the people on these islands. Uh, they said, if you go into town, the people would appreciate it if you don't come in shorts and slacks, shorts and pants. This was not, see, this was way back. Uh, and the people in the towns would prefer that you come wearing a skirt. Okay, I had a skirt with me. uh, well, but people did not. It was only at beaches, those resorts and so forth, that people would wear shorts and slacks. So we decided we would go in. So we hired a taxi that time, and we went into the town. When we were there, one time you could walk maybe into town if you walked along the beach. And so one day when we were down there, we walked along the beach and you see things like that. You don't see how the people actually live. Some of them in very poor circumstances. And it was really, it made you realize, what people have. Let's see, the next time we went to another island, we went to Grenada. That was the second island we had gone to. And we had a lovely hotel and all there. Same kind of accommodations, really. It's really, very plush. Posh, I would say. We weren't used to that. So, anyway, uh, I think that was the island that we decided, let's walk along the beach and see what the rest of it, where it's not built up with a big hotel and all. Let's see what it's like. So we go walking down the beach, and all of a sudden we come to a little town, which was, another. This was not a resort town. This was just a regular, ordinary. The way these people lived was great to see. So I think that was the island at Gray that we did this anyway. Uh, we get there, we're seeing all the poverty there is tremendous. I guess the only industry would be uh, uh, the hotels. All the people worked in a hotel that was close to them. You know, they were they were cooks, they were maids, they were this, they were that, anything that was, you know. So anyway, this town that got into, we saw the little shacks that they lived in were really heartbreaking, really. But it's always warm there, you see. So they didn't need heat and so forth, it was that made a difference, I believe. Well, anyway, we're walking around in this little town among these, I guess we were about the only white people there. So anyway, we're walking around this town, and we see in the town is a church. And we said, "Oh, I wonder what kind of a church it is." There were no signs or anything. I guess it was the only church of the town. So we're looking in, and we tried the door. The door opened. It wasn't locked. The church was not. It was just a tiny church, just like one room. And so anyway, we look in and we see, oh, it's a little church, but isn't it nice, you know? So we're looking around at things in the church. Not that we're going to do any damage to it, of course. But anyway, we look at one wall of the church. On this wall is painted uh, what you call it, scene, uh, uh, a nativity scene. A nativity scene is takes up one wall, painted right on the wall. When we look at it, every person in that nativity scene is black. They were doing what was theirs.
Right.
Very interesting.
Mm.
See, this is why I wanted to tell you this because I thought of these things and I thought this would be interesting. Anyway, so it was interesting to see that what they had done in their church. And this is the way they depicted Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the wise men, pictured them all as black. Wasn't that interesting? It must have been a Christian church if they had a nativity scene. So um, the only way we could get there would be to walk that big long walk to the beach. You know, the beach. Had no idea what time any churches were there. So anyway, we did not go to that, but we thought that was very interesting. That was fun to do. See, now most people just would stay at the beach at the hotel and get waited on and so forth. But Harold and I wanted we didn't want just that. We wanted to go see what was around, and that's what we found with this particular island. And I really don't even know what the name of this town was. There were signs that we could tell what it was. Must have been very small
Yeah.
and very poor,
Yeah.
and but that was very interesting to go when the church opened. We went in. Yes, it wasn't much of a town. It wasn't much of a town at all. It was just these houses, and there was this church. And I'm trying to think now. I can't remember whether there was a food market of some kind. Not a market like we think of today, but there must have been a butcher and there must have been a grocer. It's funny, that was quite a while ago. That was like 50 years ago. Grenada, yeah. Grenada was a little more built up than because when we got, well, maybe there were other little towns maybe that we didn't see because we just walked to this first one in Grenada, in Antigua rather. But when we got to Grenada, we took a taxi, and the taxis would come right to the resorts, and take the people wherever they wanted to go. So we said we wanted to go into town to see what was there. I think maybe that was when they told us that the people appreciated if we didn't wear slacks or shorts, especially. Okay. So anyway, we got this to go into Grenada. Now Grenada, the island of Grenada, had this. It must have been a bigger island, I guess, but they said uh, the people there. It was more of a town that we got to, and we went into the town, and we saw a school there. So of course that's right up our alley. So we're walking around the town. We're not driving. We're walking, and we were young in those days. We could walk distances. So anyway, we stopped at this school, and uh, there were children there. Now this was this is February. So I don't know really. I don't remember really. Well, anyway, we get talking with the teacher. I guess it was. I don't know how many teachers were there, but anyway, they Harold told them that he was an administrator in schools in our town, and they said, you know, we're looking for a principal. Would you like to come down here? So they're offering Harold a job. uh, anyway, but we went to, they had a library there. I can't remember, was the library, was it in the school or was it a separate building? We had gone to this library and this, we looked at and we looked at each other, and after we got out, because the teacher or somebody was there with us, we said, you know, we have more, our two girls have more books than is in this library for this town. You know, they were very poor. Maybe they're more uh, have a little more security and all today than they did then, because that was we were still teaching then. See, and we retired in 75, 76. But anyway, it was very interesting to see how other people in other parts of the world live. That was very interesting. I mean, when I saw the library, and I guess it must have been the library in the school. And if I, maybe I got this written down on with pictures, I don't know. But anyway, this is what we said. You know, Judy Ann and Wendy have more books than this town or this school library has. So that was interesting. To, and it was interesting when they wanted Harold to come down there and they need a principal. Any place that we possibly could, we would do things like that. If we could, you know, go into a school or, you know, or a church, uh, if we could go, if the church, if it was a Sunday and we could go to a service, fine. But if we couldn't, if we, so we'll look and see what's here. But we did that all over. And you know, if you have things like that, you get so much more out of your vacation. Oh, and one time, one of the islands, I can't remember which one it was. Um, the fellow stopped. He said, "Do you mind if I stop here for a minute?" He said one of his relatives stopped there, and they had some. He had something he had to tell them or show them. So he said, "Would you want?" We said, "No, we'll just go ahead and do it." So we sat in the taxi while he went in and did whatever he had to do at this relative's house. But now, would you ask your taxi driver? Would the taxi driver ask you to? But things were so different. Yeah. And then we went to, that was Grenada, I'm sure. And then St. Lucia. That was a very nice place too. Except that the hotel which we had uh, booked into, they had a fire that winter, and so they didn't. We couldn't get into the hotel we wanted, but they put us in another hotel. But it probably wasn't as nice as the one we had booked into originally. That was anyway. You know, how much time do you spend in your hotel room when you have the whole sea to look at? The first time we went down, Harold got this international license, so he could drive around the island. Yeah. Uh, of course, we didn't know it at the time, but that on that island, you drove on the wrong side of the street. That was his first attempt at driving there. Luckily, it was very not very well populated. but that was the first we did that. The next times we said it isn't worth getting a car, renting a car, because we found out you could get call a taxi very easily, and because the islands are connected not only by the beach but also by their roads. No, so there are roads that you can get from one island to another. See, I thought this would be interesting. Now, when we got to St. Vincent, St. Lucia was our third one. That was a very nice. Oh, that's the one where our hotel burned down a number of weeks before, so they put us up at another hotel. It wasn't as plush as some of the others we had been in. But then the last island we went to was St. Vincent. Now, St. Vincent is a nice island. They have quite a few things there. They had oh more or less factories and so forth at St. Vincent. However, the hotel that we booked was a little island off of St. Vincent. The only thing on this little island was this hotel with various cabins, like so you each had your own little, uh, which was very nice. It was very different from what we had before, and it was very the whole thing was, if you wanted to go someplace else, if you wanted to get to not the either to get to St. Vincent, you had to take a boat. And there was a ferry that went back and forth. So you could, if you wanted to go, you'd just go down to the ferry and they'd take you across. When you wanted to come back, you'd get out the way and they'd bring you back. That was interesting too, because this was an island off of an island. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you get a shower, and you know that. So you don't want to be on the beach or you don't want to be out someplace, because they'll get this little shower, which might last 15 or 20 minutes. Might rain real hard then, and that's it. That was interesting. Very interesting weather. Well, I guess that's when you get, I guess, down to the equator or close to it. I guess things change a little bit. Well, anyway, that was it was really, we really enjoyed those 4 trips we took down there like that. It was blue, yes. Not not you couldn't really see all the way down. No, but it was warm. The water was warm, so it was very interesting to swim there. Yes, most of it is, but we went one time to a black sand beach. Black sand beach, yes. The whole beach was black sand. Not that it was dirty, you know, it was black sand. And I can remember I was must have been one of those beaches that we went off to, and I remember bringing a jar of it home, to have to show what black sand was. And I can remember I must have been teaching. I was still teaching at the time, because I took it to school and I showed it to the children. They couldn't get over black. Oh, I couldn't either when I first saw it. But the whole beach was black sand. And it was just the same consistency as white sand, but that was very interesting to see this black sand beach. They would feed you. I mean, excuse me, all of our meals were, at the hotel. They cooked all this, and it was beautiful, wonderful food. They catered. I think they catered more or less to the yes, to the Europeans or the Americans. There would be other things, I mean, that you could order at times, which I always like to try something that's different. but then you see, we retired then after that. Harold retired the year before I did, because he's almost a year older.